So I start my activism and I try telling the council and telling everyone, no, these guys are the bad guys. Yeah. He gets a seat in the Luton in Harmony programme. Now, he's on the radio talking about me. Now, I live in Luton. So I just walk into the radio station. You'll find this. Pink News run the story. So if you Google Pink News and his name, you'll find the story. He's on the radio. So I go walking in and the radio host is like, well, seeing as we're talking about Tommy Robinson and he is from Luton, he's just walked in. I said, yeah, I walked in. I want to ask Kadir a few questions. Let me sit down. So I sit down and I say, Kadir.
With him.
And he's there. Because the journalist won't ask him the questions. Yeah. So I sit down and say, Kadir, you're part of the Luton in Harmony programme. I'm the extremist, apparently, because I want to ban the niqab and I want to speak about Sharia law, and I'm deemed as the extremist and he's deemed as the moderate imam. I said, in your ideal society, Kadir, in your ideal society, forget Britain, what you want for your society, what would happen to homosexuals? And he can't not answer. Yeah? So journalists just should ask them the questions in the right way. And he said, well, there'll be punishment. I said, yeah, so what punishment would there be, Kadir? Like, what punishment would there be? It's death. You're part of the Luton in Harmony programme, yet you're the imam and you want death for the homosexual community. Now, from this, in ideal society, we would punish homosexuals. This come out of my interview with him, just from asking him one or two questions, where no journalists, they get these imams on the TV and I think, why are you not asking them questions? So when they ask that, in response to that, because he's the head teacher of a school, yeah, and I've been battling against this group for years, yeah, and just getting shut door in my face. He's sitting, my council are having meetings with him and all his group, and we're on the outside. We're the extremists. They're welcomed in, they're funded, the government are giving them money for their mosque, everything, yeah. So I'm in there. They then do an investigation into his mosque, and then they Ofsted, because it's a school, they raid the mosque. They find books for the children about punishing, killing, whipping women for adultery, cutting off of hands, all these different things in the school. Then we have a Khalid Masood commits a terrorist attack. Westminster Bridge. Guess where he was working? Luton Islamic Centre. Guess where the Stockholm bomber went? Luton Islamic Centre. So now, all the things, and this is the level of infiltration, yeah? When I was running the English Defence League, Luton Mosque challenged bombers' extreme views. These are the headlines that they gave as though they were heroes, yeah? Luton Mosque gets money from the Prevent scheme. The government give every mosque in our country money to report if someone's an extremist. When that man went and blew something up, they had never reported him. But then they play the victim all the time, yeah? But Kadir Bask, they receive money. When all this is blowing up and I'm trying to challenge him and we're being called the extremists, there was a group, Luton Borough Council introduced me to a man whose job it was to tackle far-right extremism. So when I met him, I was running the English Defence League. It was in the first couple of years of the English Defence League. He steps forward and he said, right, he told me everything he wants to do. I want to tackle racism. I'm against extremism. I said, I support you in everything you say. Just come and spend 3 days with me. So I bring him to English Defence League meetings and I say, right, this man's job wants to tackle racism, anti-Semitism, extremism, all that. And I said, he's just going to spend a few days listening to what we're doing. He then said to me, there's something different here because far-right groups wouldn't allow this. And I said, mate, this isn't far-right ideology. We're normal people who have had enough, yeah? So his job is to give presentations to councils. Now, after I've exposed Kadir Bask massively as an extremist, radical, jihadist supporter, yeah, because that's who he is, when the Khalid Masood attack comes, the national newspapers are ringing me when they realise. And I've got all of them ringing me saying, what do you know on him? I said, this school, I'm giving them every bit of information because I know everything in my hometown about these groups. I've been following them. I know where they all are. And then there's raids going on at the time and it's all blowing up. I'm feeding them all the information on who he is. Then the police have education and they have people going in and educating them on the far right and on Islam. So this gentleman whose job it is to tackle racism turns up after all of this. He turns up to a seminar. Who's educating the police on Islam? Get
out of here.
I swear to God.
Get out of here.
This is the level they're at. So no one's even, he's a terrorist supporter. Yeah. When they're going in, he's telling the police what phrases to use, what terms.
What other Muslim leaders and influencers have you confronted in UK?
I've confronted all. So in the UK, I was the only.
Have you and Hijab ever done a podcast together?
I'll tell you what Hijab done. Just like 12 months ago, Hijab sent letters to my children's home. So this is how they operate. Yeah. So he sent legal letters. So what I said Muhammad Hijab is a caveman because he is. Yeah. His ideologies belong 1400 years ago with his prophet. Now, what he believes is that it's okay, and he says this, yeah, sexual relationship once a child starts puberty, because that's what Muhammad did. Now, it's hard to have these conversations anyway. No one wants to hear them. Yeah. So I made a video saying about his deranged backward views to try and intimidate me, which is what it was, because that's what they do. He sent letters to my children's home. Just to let me know he knows where my kids are. Legal letters, yeah? I responded the next day by posting those legal letters straight through his home. Because, as I said, I do my homework. And what they're used to doing is intimidating and installing fear in people and people shutting up. And the problem is, it's not just them. My biggest fear, I don't fear Mohammed Hijab, a clown like that. It's a joke. I don't feel, even the jihadists. My fear ain't to walk down the street and get stabbed. I've sort of accepted that. I've accepted where I stand in that position. When they started arresting people and catching them with guns and bombs, and I had all these threats of Al-Shabaab named me to be killed. When that happened, I sort of, yes, I struggled to deal with it. As a young man, I probably struggled to deal with it. But once I accepted it, that's not what I fear. I fear the establishment. I fear the government. I fear what they're doing now. That's my worry. I fear what they're doing right now. As I said, I've just come out of custody. Do you know when the riots hit off? And this is where they all work together. I've made multiple documentaries. And their problem is my documentaries absolutely hammer them. I'm not just saying it. I've become very good at what I do with journalism, and they don't like it. And the way we fight back is to show the public. I need the public to understand, and I counter their lies, which is why when they were able to censor us for so many years, and you couldn't even mention us. We were on obscure little websites. We were on Getter. We weren't on the mainstream. When Elon Musk gave me back my voice by having a basic belief in free speech, I was away. I was in Spain. And then I come back to the UK. I organised a demonstration on Armistice Day. October 7th happens. The Palestinian cause. Jihadists that took over our capital city. They're literally standing on the streets of our capital city calling for jihad. They're literally flying Hamas, Hezbollah flags. All of these are crimes. Nothing's being done. We're watching as they're taking over universities, they're taking over capital cities in every Western nation. And probably from the police's point of view, if there's one person that was going to galvanise and mobilise a resistance to that in the streets of the UK, it would be me. I fly back to the UK. They're then talking about Armistice Day, which is a day that we remember our armed forces. We show respects. They were releasing videos and commentary to say that there's going to be no silence. We have a 2-minute silence. There's going to be no silence. I then made a video saying, well, we can't rely on the police to stop them getting to our war memorials. We have no faith in the police preventing them because they literally run away from them. They call for jihad, the police stand there smiling. Not just smiling, when they call for jihad, the Met Police put out a statement saying jihad can mean inner struggle. It's like, they're waving terrorist flags. They're calling for Muslim armies. Yeah? They're not all about an inner struggle, guys. What clowns have you got operating for the Metropolitan Police?